Welcome to the neighborhood. This is Orchard View Boulevard looking west from Duplex. What we're going to talk about in this section is residential neighborhoods, apartment neighborhoods, mixed-use areas, the town center, and how these all merge together and how we handle transition. Our residential neighborhoods, just like this one, are all about living at ground level, being able to appreciate walking out the front door. It's about low-rise developments of 2.5 and sometimes 3 stories that are well set back from the street, providing for a landscaped front yard with the trees we see here, and again streets that are quiet. They're not filled with traffic, and they're places that people use. They can play in them. These residential neighborhoods are in essence our houses in the park. We tried apartments in the park, that didn't work, but our houses in the park did. And as the city intensifies, we're not building any more parks. Likewise, we have to remember that our residential neighborhoods, once they're gone, are irreplaceable. They have a role to play in the big picture, and that is with future generations, these will be the places where people walk their dogs, bicycle, play in the streets, and get their exercise, and get around. We see across the street the parking lot, which is the site of the proposed neon tower, which will rise 20 stories up from the street, without any transition being regarded for its relationship to the residential neighborhood on this side of Duplex. Transition is an important part of our city's plan, and it's intended that those locations in an apartment neighborhood that are adjacent to a residential neighborhood in that shoulder, so to speak, will step down in density and height and otherwise provide a transition to ensure that the residential neighborhood is protected and preserved in its stable condition. Looking the other direction down Orchard View Boulevard towards Yonge Street, as we approach closer to Yonge, we see this is a different kind of cat than the house form neighborhood. Orchard View Boulevard is a different kind of street on this side of Duplex Avenue. It consists of a lot of cars, and there's a lot of ramps that go to different parking and loading areas. Meanwhile, it's an area that has a tremendous amount of population living above the street in these apartments. On the right-hand side, we see the apartment towers, which are part of the Young Eglinton Center, which is not an apartment neighborhood, but rather a center, which is an area in the city where one expects to find unlimited height and density to be determined by urban design guidelines and development overtures as they come forward. Turning now towards the Young Eglinton Center, we can see the difference in scale between an apartment neighborhood and a center. Interestingly enough, the tower across Duplex Avenue here, away from the house form neighborhood, is actually of the same height and setback from the street as what is being proposed by the neon. Really, it's not putting an apartment building with a shoulder condition and transition beside a residential neighborhood. It is effectively moving the town center north. So here we are back in the neighborhood again. That was a bit of a transition. We need to think about our city and the people who are living in it, and what's going to become of everybody in the end. As I mentioned earlier, with the greater population living in a smaller area, and with our inability to include new parks, these streetscapes, these residential streetscapes, are in a sense houses in the park, and they are important to maintain. They can never be replaced once they're lost.